of what you're doing in your own life. Like when people see what I'm doing, like I had people just reach out to me when I left the job and it was like, where are you going? I'm like, who cares?
Do you want to start doing and talk about radio? Because I feel like I want to talk about the boyfriend first because that's like...
We're happy for you.
Get into the juicy stuff right off the bat, right?
Well, yes,
Yeah, how did you meet?
Well, he is, we went to high school together.
Oh.
No kidding.
Dominic.
Wow. And you got reacquainted?
Yeah. We were in photography class together back in sophomore and junior year. Mm-hmm. And he always called me Claire.
Claire.
And I never, and I still talk to my photography teacher from high school every so often. We're like Facebook friends. And she'd be like, I never understood why he did that. But he'd be like, hello, Claire. Like he was like with the class clown group kind of people. I think I heard them say once my photos were so clear that they called me Claire. I don't know. But that was the most I ever interacted with him. You know,
When I think of Claire, I think of Silence of the Lambs. Clarice.
Yeah. That's literally what people were saying. And I'm like, I don't know if it's that, though. I always say that he was a bro. And he's like, I wasn't a bro. And I was like, you were totally a bro in high school.
How long have you guys been together?
Almost 2 years now.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, I know. It feels like a lifetime.
So
Relationships tend to do that to you.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
you guys traveled to Italy together.
Yeah, it's so funny because when I first, I did the hard launch, a few months in, and it was the picture in Italy. And people knew the past of me going to Italy by myself. So they assumed that I met him in Italy. And they're like, wow, so you met a man in Italy and he moved to town with you? I'm like, yeah.
It's so 1950s
romantic.
Hollywood.
I know, right? I was like,
The love story of a lifetime.
Yeah.
through the pandemic and everything, I supported his pizzeria because he has a pizzeria named Dominic's.
Nice.
Totowa, New Jersey. Go and support it if you're around there. But best Sicilian pizza you'll ever have. If I froze some to bring it to LA because I did it once before for a radio show.
Does that work?
Yeah, it does. It's really good. And I was going to bring it, but I had no freezer for the first 3 days here.
Oh, man.
So it wouldn't have worked out. But I would have loved for you to try it. But
Next time, just send it here. We'll put it right in the freezer.
yeah, I know.
Just get it shipped here.
Just ship it over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we met. I decided I started going back to Dominic's and everything like that, and getting pizza throughout the pandemic because I just moved back home. I took anyone from that I knew from LA over there. Did I take you guys to get pizza when you visited New Jersey?
You picked us up at the airport.
Did I bring you pizza?
And you took us from Newark into the city.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
No, you took us to get cannolis.
Oh, Ferraras. Yeah.
Yes, that was really good.
But then, so I was going to his business a lot during the pandemic to support local business. And then he slid into the DMs once, and then I'll always never let him live it down that he ghosted me in 2020. And then for anyone followed me throughout that time, they know where that went for a little while. And then I met Dom and reconnected with him, almost 2 years ago. And so, yeah.
Well, that's cool though. So, and you guys, it's been 2+ years. You guys have been together.
Almost 2.
And it's funny because I remember the last time we talked, it was your ex, and I remember he just did not want to talk to me and say hi.
Really?
Wait, what?
What's his name? Yeah, we were at we were in Chicago.
Demon Spawn 2.0.
Demon Spawn?
I have 2 demon spawns in my life, unfortunately.
2?
Yeah.
Who's the second one?
The LA one.
Yeah, he seemed kind of douchey. I'm not gonna lie. He was kind of over his head. It was like you're not. I'm sorry, but you know what? The fact that Dana's in radio, she's working with people who are way more successful than you do.
Yeah, that's true.
Funny, for my 30th birthday, I had a roller skating party, and it was popping. It was great.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I had a good I don't know, close to 40 people show up. I invited everyone. I was like, because I rented out the whole roller rink and everything. I made it 90s theme. I had Spice Girl gum that I bought off of eBay.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing. And it was so fun. And he told me, he's like, I can't believe you got so many people like this together at your party. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like,
you don't have any friends?
yeah, he's like, well, none of my friends, the only time that people come together is when I do meet and greet stuff, but none of my true friends would fill a room like this. He's like, I can't believe you just filled a room with all your friends and you're not famous.
Wow.
Okay.
Being famous and being loved are two different things.
Very different things. Yeah.
Like quality over quantity. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was just like, okay. And then everyone's like, what the frick? Mm-hmm. Did I ever tell you how that ended? It's kind of a crazy story.
No, I didn't hear it.
I don't know. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay, why not?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, tell us.
The tell-all. Dom can just tune out from this point on. I don't care. I'm an open book. But so we were on and again and off again, on again, off again, blah, 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 blah. And it was just like draining. And I was at the point where I was just like, this is unhealthy. This is like, he's always out. He's always partying, always cheating, whatever it is. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. And one of my friends was like super, super religious and stuff like that. And he's a great guy and everything. So like we've always like talked about things and trying to like work me through whatever I was going through. And then so one night I remember I was laying in bed and he just went to Florida and he was just like, my demon spawn went to Florida. And I told him, don't go to Tampa because there was a chick in Tampa that he wanted to talk to.
That you knew about.
I knew about, yeah. And then she was like DMing him, come to Tampa. And I'm like, the frick? And so anyway, I was like, don't go to Tampa. And then he started having a hissy fit, whatever. Mm-hmm. So then he's down in Florida. He's doing all his like appearances and everything like that. And I'm like, it's like 2 a.m. And I'm like, I can't like do this anymore. Like, please, God. And I'm like praying. I'm like, God, if you're out there, if you're listening to me, like I don't have the strength to do it on my own anymore. Like I just need help. Please, please, please. I'm no kidding. I just put my head on the pillow and I get a call from him. And I'm like, not God, but demons.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Hey,
The
God.
opposite. No.
yeah, exactly. So I get a call and I'm like, the heck? It's 2 a.m. I'm like, all right. So I answer it and I'm like, hello. And he butt dialed me. And he was at a bar starting to talk
God,
to a
if there's
chick.
a sign, please send it to me now.
I'm telling you,
instantly.
it gets better.
Be careful
then
what you
I'm
wish
like, yeah. And then so I'm like, hello. And he's talking to a chick. Oh, you from here? Da, da, da. Where are you going? Where are you staying? Da, da, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right. And we both have 2 phones. So I'm calling him on both phones and trying to get his attention. I'm screaming in the phone because I'm like delusional. All right. So I hang up because I'm like, I can't get in contact with him. He butt dials me again because his phone was like messed up. So like it like always stayed on the screen. It would never go black. So
Doesn't that remind you of somebody?
I don't know. That's the next story. So he butt dialed me again, continuing to talk to these chicks and everything like that. So I decided to start texting him the whole prompt of what he's saying to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back to him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, so you're going to do that? Oh, cool. You're going there? Oh, cool. You're going to meet her here? All right, got it. Then he calls me finally when he sees all the
Like
spam
really
of
calls you.
messages. Yeah. Later on. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, this is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. This is God's sign telling you not to be with me. And I'm like,
That's exactly what it is.
I was like, what? And then literally from that day, I mean, we were like, still talking and everything. He literally just completely ghosted me. And he went and hung out with that chick right the next day.
Of course. What else is he
Posted
going to do? He's guilty. He's like, F it,
got
I'm just going to
caught.
go.
Yeah,
I'm
I
going
was
to do
like,
it.
well,
well,
okay.
while I'm here, when in Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, never heard from him again.
That was it.
That's
That was it.
awful.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing, like, and this is what my dad literally said the other day, because aside of being on this podcast right now, I'm also staying here.
Yeah.
She's my roommate. My temp roommate. And by the way, I took her to Victoria Gardens.
Yeah.
And then we went up
around.
Archibald all the way to the top, so she
Oh,
can see
nice.
like the
Was there snow
the
today?
valley. Yes, but only way up there. though.
Okay.
Yeah. My palms were sweating. It was so high up. And I was like, Freddie, go slow around
Yeah,
this corner.
it's
I was like, I
super,
don't want to
super
fall
high up.
off of this thing.
So are you best friends with Patton now?
Oh my goodness, he's so precious, that little
He's
puppy
sweet.
dog. I told Dom, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna stay at Freddy's. He's like, all right. And so my dad's like, you guys good? Everything's all right? Because that's how my
Yeah.
dad talks, obviously. And then, so I was like, yeah, no, he's good. And he's like, wow, you guys really trust each other. I'm like, I don't have an inkling in my mind that Dom is not doing anything he shouldn't. Like, he is sitting on that couch, snuggling Jimmy, my cat, right now, and probably playing his golf video game. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that is so nice.
Yeah.
And then, like,
It's a good feeling.
I'm here just going out and doing my thing. And, like, he knows, like, I'm just, like, a drop of a dime type of person where I just go to the next thing and whatever. But, like, I tell everyone about Dom. I'm like, I am well fed. He feeds me so good. He's very nice. We go to Italy. Like, what else do I need? He watches Jimmy. He takes care. He loves him like his own son.
Yeah.
He's allergic to cats, and he's like,
and he's snuggling with the cat.
my baby boy. Yeah. I literally got Jimmy, and I was like, so, what do you think about cats? And he's like, I'm allergic. And I'm like, take a picture of Jimmy. I'm like, well, I have a cat, so...
Hey, how about you take some
poison.
allergy pills?
I was like, how about lizards? He's like, I don't really like lizards. I'm like, well, I got a lizard too.
So you saw LA when you were here working at Kiss FM. Both of us were there together at around the same time.
Yeah.
And you saw the way LA was and how the radio industry was during that time. Mm-hmm. And you've come back post fires in Los Angeles and Pacific Palisades and all that. What do you think about everything?
My goodness. I was so sad, first of all, with the fires and everything and the layoffs, literally. Like I cried twice recently, and I don't cry anymore really because I'm like actually happy in my life now. It's crazy. The first time I cried was when a radio station that I worked at laid off like half the people. And where I worked previously. Yeah. Can we say those? Can we name drop things?
Of course.
I don't know
Absolutely.
if we can.
Everyone else has.
I know, but like in certain like what's it called? Radio shows or like podcasts, knows. People can't say names.
Everybody.
Okay, so when I worked at KFI, when they laid off like everyone at KFI, that was like every time I talk about radio, I always would use KFI as an example because I was like, they are what like radio should be and always should be. They're so good because you have so many different personalities. You have food, interior design, news, morning show, afternoon show, random shows. Like, I don't know, there's so many different people on that station. And so I always use that as an example. And then when I found out that they let go of like everyone there that I worked with, I was like, and I was literally on the couch, like crying, and Dom's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's just a radio thing. It's fine."
And it's wild because it's LA. You would think that like, okay, this maybe happens in like Raleigh
markets or something. Yeah. And I mean, just before that, my previous job, ABC, they let go of like 15 people, and I mean, I really wasn't worried, like in the sense of like for me, I was like, Jesus, take the wheel, whatever happens for me, but like it stunk because everyone that I knew was gone. The morale is just in radio is not there anymore because everyone's afraid of their job or they're like fearing for their life, and it's sad. But and then obviously the fires happened, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, because everywhere where the fire hit was basically my old stomping ground. Because all I would do when I had no friends in LA is just drive around aimlessly for hours and hours and hours. I was telling Dom this the other day. He's like, what are you going to do for 6 hours while you wait for Freddie to get out of work? I was like, oh, that's nothing. I would leave at like 6 or 7 a.m. in my apartment when I lived in LA. My roommate would text me at like 11 p.m. like, hey, making sure you're like okay and alive, right?
Yeah, you've been gone all day, all night.
I would just stay out in my car and I would just hop from place to place because I was just exploring. So seeing the fires was really sad, and like I'm trying to find ways how I can volunteer, if anything, or do something while I'm here.
You also mentioned that there was a certain joy of driving around Los Angeles, and now it's it's
crazy. I feel like after the pandemic, I feel like everyone's driving except mine. Got really bad.
Yeah.
And like even like in the city and New Jersey and all that, same thing. But like LA, it's just, I don't know if it's because there's like 6 or 7 lanes on every road and I'm just like not used to it as much anymore. But just people, like I think like Jersey people, we kind of like stay in our lane, but we just are wild in our lane. LA, people are just sweeping back and forth from lane to lane. And I'm like, bro, like they're like almost clipping my car.
Or maybe
I'm just older.
I tell everybody it's the Wild West.
It is.
It is the Wild West. It is lawless.
It's lawless.
And I said, isn't that somewhat of a perfect metaphor of what LA kind of is today?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of lawless. There's no water in the fire hydrants.
Everybody just does whatever.
I don't know. I mean, like I don't live here anymore, so I couldn't even know like what the
Would you want to
Sitches.
come back to live here?
The only time I say is like if I'm actually like well off, like
Right.
like if I get a job that's gonna make sure that I'm comfortable
Yeah.
here, because I'm not gonna be uncomfortable.
A lot
anymore.
of actors are leaving. They're like,
Big houses elsewhere.
I'll get a big house somewhere else.
like Franklin, Tennessee, or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Plus, they don't get mobbed out there. They can walk to the store and they can go eat at a restaurant, and
Yeah.
it's not so bad. Over here, it's like we see so many celebrities, but they still go crazy over it, and
Yeah.
they can't even have a date night.
I mean, there's celebrities that hang out in my area of Jersey all the time, and it's just kind of like, okay.
Well, I'm assuming that's why Post Malone moved to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yep.
And they're
wow,
kind of
yeah.
spread out, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Why do we all have to congregate in the same town? Like,
Yeah.
there's beautiful parts of Dallas and, Austin and, Nashville and,
Yeah.
And they film all over now.
Yeah.
I mean, so you don't
Yeah.
really have to be in LA.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Exactly,
just
yeah.
put a green screen behind you. There you go. You're in a Marvel movie.
But they use green screens anyway.
Yeah, honestly, half the time. So.
But so here's the question everybody wants to know about Dana.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here is the question that I get every single time.
All right, let's
Are you
go.
ready? Here it is. Mm-hmm. What exactly does Dana do?
Yeah, tell us.
Live her best life.
I like that answer.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
this,
go.
Yeah.
So what exactly do you do? And that's what everybody wants to know. What does Dana do?
That's another podcast.
What doesn't Dana do?
Yeah, there you go. That's what I like to hear. It's funny because when I, at my old employer or whatever, you already know it, but they would ask me, they're like, what do you do? Like coworkers would be like, what's your job title when you do? I'm like, I always was a producer, but I did 6,000 other things like while I was working there.
As a producer.
Yeah.
And so what exactly does a producer do for those who are not in the business?
I was writing stories for digital. I was editing their videos, editing audio, putting stuff on our distribution website. So we had 2 websites for video and audio that we would send out to our station affiliates, which one was KFI. Another one in New York was like 1010 Wins and all that. And we would give it to them, and then they would take it and use our product for things that they maybe couldn't get to or reach, or reporters that they needed or whatever. I, every day, was knocking on the doors of every single boss. Like, how can I help you? What can I do? I did different podcasts. I did stuff at Good Morning America. I did stuff in radio, the audio. So it was really cool. Like, and I mean, I loved it tremendously, honestly. I was on air sometimes, I was doing stuff for specials for our like certain podcasts and certain holiday specials that we would distribute. And it was funny because one station, I won't say what because I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be that guy. But one radio station in New York was close to hiring me, but they said no because I didn't sound like their station. Funny enough, one day in Thanksgiving special, I was doing one of my little pieces for the Thanksgiving special for ABC, and the station took that. So I was on that station anyway.
There you go.
And I was like, you know.
Thought you didn't want me.
No doesn't mean no, it just means not right now.
So what do you think of the radio industry now and how it's changed since,
sad.
since the post-pandemic? Because a lot of people have lost their jobs. And for those like you, Dana, like who trying to find your footing, trying to get back in, trying to find your way. And it's very, we're kind of unsure of like, what direction is it going to go?
Yeah.
How have you kind of steered this movement in radio, or I guess, the change in radio? How have you steered your life around the career?
Crazy. I'm just like, behind the wheel. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question because I don't even know the answer yet. But like, I mean, for everyone that doesn't know, if they don't already follow me, I quit my full-time job at ABC recently, like around Thanksgiving.
There it is. I think we got an exclusive first time that it's been
Interesting.
on
Yes.
us.
Okay.
I mean, I already announced
Did
it
you
on
do it by
Instagram.
text message?
Yeah. It's like,
Just
sorry,
asking.
bye.
Just asking.
Yeah, right. No, I literally though I feel like no, I did it over Zoom though. Not much better.
Well, I'm like, yeah, well.
It's funny. Side note, I was like, wow, I finally got out of a toxic relationship. I'm good. I have a good job. I got a good boyfriend. This is amazing. And then my job was like not fulfilling me, and I'm like, dang it, I quit.
Isn't that
Oh, yeah,
funny how you
shoot.
evolve though? Because it's like, all right, so you have the boyfriend, you have the job, but then you run the risk of, okay, because some will say you should have a job before you quit this job.
No.
You know, because that's always like the smart thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
Because you're kind of going, balls to the wall, all out with just quitting and
YOLO.
Yeah.
exactly. So you're kind of out in
She
the
can
wilderness.
go work at Dom's.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I will never have you work at my family's place because he doesn't want me to see the other side of the family.
I had to think of it logically, I guess, in my own experience. And I said, well, Dana, what job will be happy with you traveling all the time?
I'll make one.
You know, and I said, to be working for another company, I don't see any, maybe if you work for the Travel Channel, of course, but if you're working for like a network, unless they hire you specifically to be that,
Yeah.
it's very hard to continue doing what you're doing while holding down a job like that.
Yeah, but my thing was like I never really took off. Especially nowadays, we could work remotely. Everything I was doing was.
Don't talk to Michelle about remotely.
Oh, girl, trust me, I feel
Since
you.
the Titanic sank.
I was talking to someone that a side note, I also I work at a restaurant. I always have for the last 13 years, just like on and off throughout my journey in radio. And then I also, when I gave my 2 weeks to work, I wound up going to a cafe just to check it out. It was brand new. And I wound up starting to work there. They're like, oh, actually, we need someone. I was like, well, I always wanted to be a barista.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it fun employed right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not unemployed. I'm doing things, I have little gigs and freelance and this and that all over the place. But everything that I do must be fun to me. Yeah. And that might sound like, oh, Dana, you're living in a delusional world. And maybe I am, but I always have. Look at what I'm wearing right now.
You know what I think? I think if you were to have said what you just said 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, forget about it.
I would have been like, nah, you're delusional. Like you need to grow up. But now in
People
today's
are
world,
creating their own. Yeah.
In today's world with AI taking over lots of jobs, especially in our industry. It's like, why not make your soul happy? Why not treat yourself to a job that makes you happy? Because if you do you and you do you really well, you, like Michelle said, you can maybe create something around that and actually make some money off of that, And it could be something that's completely outside of radio.
Yeah.
A guy quit ABC too, and he's TikTok famous because he does these crazy dances, and that was it. And I'm like, it's everywhere.
And TikTok's funny because it's at what point, how if you do TikTok, they almost cancel the app.
They did for 20 hours.
Yeah.
I know that was pretty scary, especially for those who actually make a life, their money, their bread
I
and
made
butter.
$8 off of TikTok. It's possible.
Yeah.
You can people are just gonna throw
I have
you
friends
money.
that make regular money. It's not a lot of money, but it's regular money, and they were devastated.
I got to figure out how to do that because
I could
I've been
show you.
taking off on TikTok lately.
It's really easy. You know what? The best way of getting money on TikTok is going live. You have to go live. Because people can throw coins at you and hearts and stickers and roses.
They do
and
the gifts and all that.
Yeah. And that's how you make your money.
You're working at the cafe still, right?
Yeah.
You're working at the cafe.
Do the restaurant.
You do the restaurant.
Yeah.
And
that's about
that allows you to also travel and do what you love to do.
Yeah, so going back off of that really quick, it was just I never traveled like crazy. I'm glad that I had the appearance that I was a world traveler, and I love that people call me that when I go to conferences and stuff. But I'm first of all, Instagram is a lie. So anytime I post that I'm in LA, sometimes that was a picture from 6 months ago, literally,
all the time.
People are oh my God, I saw someone in December this past year. Wow, you've been traveling so much. I'm girl, the last time I traveled was in August. That was literally it. The last 6 months, I haven't done anything. You know what I mean? So whatever. I never went where it would compromise what I was doing for my day to day ever. But what I'm doing now is just, I am traveling. This was my first trip of the year, which was good. I got seasick on the plane, which was absolutely terrible. Oh my God, because I'm not used to it anymore. But I'm doing the, cafe every so often, the restaurant every weekend, and I absolutely love it. I love talking to people, and It's always been a problem with me at the restaurant to talking to the tables way too much. So I have like the previous owner, because he just sold it to the new owners and they're great. He would like have the pizza shovel thingy for the brick oven pizza thing. He'd slam it on the table. And I'd hear it, and he'd be like, "Dana, stop talking. Like, do work." And I'm like, "Okay."
Did he go like this, Dana?
Yeah.
Hey,
Dana, please, I'm scared. So I mean, I still do that, and I love it. But I make my cheesecakes for dessert there. Like we sell that too.
Ooh,
So
nice.
like because
Dana's Desserts. You've been doing that for a while,
Dana'sDesserts.com or Dana's Desserts on Instagram.
And how's that taking off?
It's honestly, since I quit, it's been popping. I wasn't pushing it, but for some reason now everyone's ordering stuff.
Okay, but can we back up real quick? Because
Yes.
you do have some credentials about working in the food industry, because you worked with some pretty famous chefs and bakers. You worked with
Dominique
Enzel
Yep.
here in LA, right?
I probably ghosted him, honestly, and I feel terrible about it now, but I was younger. It's fine. I feel like I ghost a lot of the bakery jobs, just because like sometimes they're not up to speed with what I like. When a kitchen is very personal. So if you have your kitchen set up a certain way, or you do it a certain way, or use certain products, if you don't agree with that, I can't do anything that's not authentic, whether it's radio, baking, or anything in between. I can't not be myself. And that's why I left my job. Like I needed to do something that I feel happy and I know that like I'm being proud of. So I worked with Dominique Enzel. I worked in New York City with him. It was funny because there was a dessert taste testing like night or whatever. And I went with my dad. And this is when I was like, I don't know, 24, 25 or something. And I talked to the like head baker over there and I'm like, "Hey, like, what do I have to do to work here one day?" And she's like, "Oh, have you worked in bakeries and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I worked at one. Like, it was my cousin's bakery. I was like literally an intern in like Pennsylvania for like a hot minute." She's like, "Oh, well, come in for a trial and we can see how it goes." And I did. And she's like, "Look, if you want to work here, you can." And everyone was like, so like, I mean, they weren't mean to me, but they weren't friendly either.
You're talking about your coworkers there?
Yeah, because
Was everybody kind of uppity because it was Dominique? And I mean,
Like maybe they really had to earn a way into that spot, and they
yes.
feel like you didn't.
Yeah, well, literally, because they were asking me, "Where'd you go to school for baking?" And I'm like, "I learned from my grandma in the kitchen."
Yeah.
And they're like, like because they went to like French culinary schools and everything, and I'm like,
Yeah, but not everybody
sorry.
needs to. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I'm not trying to compete. Like I'm never trying to compete with nobody. I'm just trying to live my best life.
There's room
and do
for
what
everybody to
That's
win.
What I'm
Yeah.
saying. Everyone can win here. It doesn't have to be competition. So, I worked there and then I was like, "Hey, I'm going to LA." And they're like, "Well, we're opening up a restaurant in the Grove." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll help out with that." So I was like training there, like it was in the process of opening up and stuff. So that was really cool. But then I remember I was on the bench with like the general manager guy or something. And he's like, "Well, do you want to do radio or do you want to do baking?" And I was like, I think I was crying. And I was like, I don't know, because I started KISS. And
That's
like,
a hard decision.
no, because I was there early mornings and then I'd go to KISS and then I'd go to KFI. I was like draining myself. I was working like crazy. And I just like one night, I broke up with them over email. And I was like, "Look, I'm so sorry. I can't do it anymore." And I just didn't go back. And then I did KISS and KFI and stuff.
well, what did you learn from an expert like Dominique Enzel?
Yeah, I mean, like you learn a little bit of everything. The way that the bakery learns, the way the bakery runs, and what I don't know. Like it was so long ago, honestly. But
You're like, I forgot everything.
I mean, I take away stuff from every single
Of course.
place.
Do you know what I see, Dana? What I learned from you?
No structure.
Here's what I learned. I learn that you have this independence about you. You have this individuality about you.
Yeah. Thanks.
And there's this
That's a
one
positive way of
song
putting it.
about Billy Joel.
Uptown Girl. No.
Down, girl.
No, No, what's that one song? Or don't tell me what to do because I'm going to do it anyway.
This is my life.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
This is my life. And when I heard that song, and
I don't care what you say anymore.
I thought that was that's Dana.
Life.
That's Dana.
Bam, bam,
Hold on a second.
So we gotta play it.
Tell me it's time to come home. Why do you need to play the real one?
Listen,
This is better.
This is going to be her hallway song. Goes
Funny
right now,
enough,
so.
because I made a reel with that once. When someone said you travel too much, I put a reel of me by the window of the plane, and then I said, I don't care
And it was
anymore.
playing this
It's
one?
my life. It's on my Instagram, Dana M. Schaeffer. Bam. American way. Bam, bam, bam. I don't care what you say anymore. This is my life.
That's her.
Live your own life and leave me alone.
Hey,
What
good
I'm
for
saying.
Dana.
That's awesome.
And I thought that was perfect. That's
Are they
exactly
gonna,
you,
like-
Dana. That you have this individual. Your soul. It just bleeds individuality and
Thank you.
independence.
I wish people who hired people would see that in me and hire me for big name things.
Yeah.
Like, come on, I'm here.
Why don't you go work for a place like TMZ where I think they just let you have to go out and travel to go look for people.
I
Okay,
can't see Dana getting along with those people.
Fun fact, when I was first moving to LA, I actually had a job interview as a paparazza for TMZ. Yeah.
Wow.
Can I add a fun fact to that?
Tell me.
Yeah.
Paparazzo? Yeah,
Paparazzo?
the term came from a character in a film called La Dolce Vita. There you go.
It's full circle.
Full circle.
Ended here.
Circle.
Done.
What is it about going to conferences that you love so much?
Talking to people, being in the same room with a bunch of like-minded crazies that love the same thing that I do. Because, where I am in New Jersey, nothing against any of the friends that I have there, they all have kind of like, comfortable, normal jobs. So I can't really tell them the chaos of what I deal with on a day-to-day.
What is your goal?
I want to be on air.
Doing
Like, I
what?
mean, I want to...
What station?
I don't honestly, I don't have a station. It used to be Kiss FM. It used to be Good Morning America. It still is. I mean, well, the end all be all would be Good Morning America. But I think at this point, as you grow up and move on and things change, you realize like your goals and your intentions also change. So when people always say like, oh, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? Or da, 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 I don't want to be any one place. Like Don wants to buy a house, and I'm like,
It seems so permanent, right?
yeah, like I don't know. I want to we have the capability of being anywhere the frick we want to be anytime. Like that's what I want to do.
Is
Like
that realistic though?
yes, I've done it.
In a relationship?
Yeah. He's totally for me doing whatever the heck I need to do. He's like, if you need to go here, go for it. If you need to go there, go for it.
But will he go with you?
honestly, he probably wouldn't because he has his business to run. But he, even now, he's like, I know you're going to come back and then I'll come back, whatever. Like, honestly, and I don't know if this is positive or negative, but a lot of my relationships were always long distance. I never had one that was like we were living together or we were in the same town.
So you're definitely not
All of-
needy.
No. I mean, I could still be needy. But like,
You're here.
Yeah, but like, I mean, everyone was just always like probably cheating anyway, so like it didn't freaking matter. But like, he's good, so like, I mean, I don't have to worry about that. But like, I was always long distance was great because when I was in LA, I got to do everything I wanted to do. Go to every place. I didn't have to worry about the boyfriend. I just had to check in with him on FaceTime or something or whatever.
I read Al Pacino's biography, and he brought up a good point. And this is the book that just came out called Sunny Boy. Such a great, and he wrote the book himself, so it's
That's
awesome.
cool.
Oh,
I
I
try
like
that.
that.
So he talks about something that's important about, I related to about growing up recently too. And I want to bring this up in front of you and see what you think. He would date women while he was acting, being some of the greatest relationships.
Yeah.
And she would fall in love and say, let's settle down. And what he would do is he would just palm and say, nope, sorry,
Yep.
I got my career.
Yeah.
And it took him years to realize maybe I shouldn't have done that because all I did was focus on myself, me, my career. my happiness, my life,
And it goes
my
by
road.
so fast.
And at the end of the day, a lot of the time you find yourself alone, and then it's like, now what? People like that, he says in his book that he regretted that. Do you feel like you're going to regret it prioritizing your career over a relationship?
Nope. No, I don't think so, because I'm not prioritizing like one specific thing. Like,
The reason why I bring it up is because, as I've gotten older, I read that about Al Pacino, and I can relate to that because I myself have always prioritized because you know why? I wanted the career more than anything else in the world. There's oxygen and there's my career. And I was passionate about that. But as we get older in life and our values change and the way we see things change, and you realize how close to death you are, we all are, we're all going to die.
I know, it's crazy.
What really matters? And I guess, hey, to each their own, and I don't judge, but I will say it is something to think about.
Well, I mean, I think anything's possible depending on who you're with, right? Like, yeah, I mean, you could regret it for prioritizing your career or something else or whatever, but I mean, I feel like Dom is so supportive and he's not like going anywhere. And granted, when I am off the road and I'm home, I am literally not leaving the house, and I am, scrubbing my bathroom clean because I'm OCD, and I'm like feeding Jimmy and Amber and, giving her little lizard kisses. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like I will be doing that. But then when I have to catch a flight and be on like in LA or somewhere else, I'm going to be like crazy. And, I didn't talk to Dom like pretty much all day when I was at the She Rocks thing because I was at the award ceremony. And to circle that in, all the women that were up there winning awards had kids, had husbands, had rock and roll freaking lifestyles where they were always on the road, always. This one singer, she was just like, I raised my daughter or her kid in the tour bus, on stages, in dive bars, in like all that kind of stuff to, get by. So like, I mean, that's tough. But then she said that it gave her more of a reason to keep going with her career, having the child, than if she was doing it on her own.
Yeah.
So like she's like, I had the kid, and the kid actually made me go crazier in my career and do more in my career. And I just took the kid with me.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that's the thing, like.
What happens if he wants a kid? What happens or like later on down the line? It's
been 2 years,
Oh God, no, we're not even married yet. No.
True.
I mean, like, look, to each their own. But
By
like,
the way,
I
if you
told
do get
him.
married, Michelle and I are available for. We do have our passports valid.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
We
Yeah,
have
I
valid
said it in
passports to Italy.
Yes.
I mean, I'm telling. He's like, Dana, like, can you just like think a little bit like average or like normal for a minute?
No, never.
I'm like, no, I am getting married in the Vatican. Thank you. And
That's awesome.
But like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. The thing is, I've accomplished so much in my life already. Like, and that's not to have like an ego or whatever, but like everything I've ever wanted in my life besides going to space, which Dom's like, no, you're not going to space. I'm like, if I go to space, I'm going to space. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to stop me.
If you have the opportunity.
Yeah. He's like really worried about that because he's like, oh no, but that's the thing. He's worried about me going to the moon because he's like, that's
Where
not
else
out
can
of,
you go? Yeah.
But he's like, that's not out of line for Dana. Like that's something that she could probably get done now. You know what I mean? Because all the things that I've ever wanted, all the people I've ever wanted to talk to, all the places I ever wanted to work at, I've done it. And like, I've worked at my dream company and I literally just quit it on a whim. So, I mean, to the moon, I guess. I know. But if I had a kid, like,
They go to the moon too.
You're coming with me. I don't know. Like, if I had a kid, I would have to figure it out.
The way I see this, and I could be wrong, and Michelle, tell me if I'm wrong, but I see you checking off things on a resume, and I see the cool logo, and I see check, and I see this cool logo, and I see check. But when you and I we're really good friends. We're very close. And when you call me and say,
Very
hey,
good friends.
Freddie, can I pick your brain?
Roommates
Yeah,
even.
of course.
Yeah. I'm trying my best to understand where you're coming from and what your goals are. And to me, I'm confused.
Well,
I know I'm not the smartest guy in the
so
room.
am I. She's all same right here. What are you talking about? Well, I mean, for instance, one of my goals was to be on air at PLJ. That station's no longer, right?
And you said Good Morning America. Have you
Yeah.
ever done that?
No.
Okay, so that was one of her goals that she said she wanted to
and
do.
I mean, that's still a background on my phone. Like, that's a goal of mine. But I know that the road is not linear. It's, zigzag up the hill, down the hill, all this kind of
it's
stuff.
hard. A lot has changed.
Well, and
Everything
that's
is
the
very
thing.
uncertain. But here's the part that gets me.
Yeah.
You've been trying to do a reel for years. And what a reel is, it's like an air check or a demo. You can do the best of. And I've never seen you finish it.
Because a reel is not authentic to me. A reel is a fake thing that you give to an employer to say that you can work at a station.
I kind of agree with that, yeah.
This is 102.7 Kiss FM.
But do you know the purpose of a reel?
Yeah, to highlight what you're, how you sound.
I'll tell you what the purpose of a reel is.
Tell me.
So the person hiring you can see what you potentially could look like on their channel.
I understand that, but I'm not on their channel, and it just doesn't make sense. I'm like, look, I get reels are real. I have been graced with the opportunity to work at these jobs where, a last minute thing changed or whatever, and I had to go on air, and I just did it, and I didn't suck, right? So like that was good. But now making a reel, and I'm going to do it because now I have a better understanding now that I'm older. And you have to understand also that when you're in a job for such a long time, depending on what it is, you lose your chops, right? So, and that was one thing I told one of my bosses at a point. I was just like, if you take this producing and stuff like that away from me, that's all I have. Like that's you don't use it, you lose it. And I was like, once I started going into sales, I haven't edited a video. Unless it was on my phone, I haven't edited audio in a while. I haven't done anything. I haven't been talking in front of the camera. I haven't done interviews. All of that stuff that I've been working up for years and years and years now has dwindled down to nothing. And so I'm losing that ability to do that. And I felt that. And that's why I left, because I was like, now it's on me and no one else. It's no one else's responsibility but my own to do that. And like when you're in a 9 to 5 and you're commuting into the city all the time, those are hours out of your time. I'm sure where it's like, you're in this office now, 5 days a week again, right? Or something. So like you only have you're going to wake up in the morning. I have to go to the gym because like that's my sanity. But then by the time I get home, it's like 7 or 8 o'clock. My energy's not there. My voice isn't there to like, hey, what? I can't do it. So like that's the reason why I took myself out of this job, is that so I had the opportunity to make demo reels, to make audio and video and things like that again. And I have no excuse to not do it now. And if I don't, it's literally falling on me. And now I'm the one that's dropping the ball. But like, yeah, I understand what a reel is for, but I just, I also just feel like that's so fake, because like, you're saying that you're on a station that you're really not on. And I've done them before. I've done newsreels, but I just like, it's not authentic to me. And that's like going back to everything else we were talking about before. If it's not authentic to me, and I know it's not realistic, like sometimes you're going to have to like fake it till you make it or whatever, but I need to do things that are going to feed my soul and it's authentic, whether they're interviews, whether it's stories, whether it's work or whatever it is. Like I can't, it's just not in my blood to fake it.
In a normal world, I would completely disagree with everything you just said. Hard. And there's no bending my opinion on that.
Yeah.
But we don't live in a normal world anymore. And I think, the world is changing.
Well, that's the
and
other
it seems
thing.
like it's somewhat tailoring to people like you, to people like me. And we have the same spirit in a way where we're both wildly creative and spontaneous and talented.
Yeah.
And the world is changing in a way where, normal doesn't work anymore, and the standard way of doing things doesn't work anymore. And then how you do you, and in any weird way, what people might think is weird, might land you the job that you've always wanted. But I want to know before Michelle's perspective on her approach or her belief on all of this.
Be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to manage both. Although I will say I started opposite. So having a child really young and not being able to do that. I couldn't fleet around. I couldn't travel around. I couldn't do a lot of things when I was younger because he was my concentration. But I did bring him everywhere with me. That's true. But I wasn't when you're working in a government job, you can't bring your kid along. So it was one of those where I couldn't do it.
NASA.
NASA. NASA.
Can I go to space?
Because she wants to go to space. It comes full circle. I had a really good support system. No, I don't.
Oh, I was like, oh,
No, but that'd be funny. That's why I said that. I was like, oh, she's gonna get all excited. I had a really good support system, but now that he's older, I can combine a lot of that. Like you're right. It's exhausting. You do you try to fit in eating well. You try to fit in a relationship. You try to fit in the gym. You try to fit in extracurriculars. You try to fit in a podcast. You try to spend time with your kid. People wonder how I hold this job, and I'm management, so I always have to be there, but I'm always all over the world. And everybody always is like, must be nice. And I hate when people say must be nice, because my answer always is, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, wow. Well, there's one guy that's in management and radio, and he literally has visited every single country.
We got to get the guy on the podcast. By the way.
You gotta get him.
Yeah, he's incredible.
R-Dub, yeah.
He's incredible.
That is
insane.
cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you, like, people always talk to me. How do I do
You should
it?
talk to.
I do talk to him.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, like, I still don't get how he does it.
Right.
And that's the thing. But I'm like, I'm not mad at it. Hey, he figures it out. He's like, I have a system, the way I manage it, I do it. And I'm like, hey, good on you. I'm not going to be like, must be nice. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm like, I kind of get you, because like I'm the same way, but I want to be that psychotic.
You just have to prioritize what you think is important. And if that's okay, if that's important to you right now, because next year you might feel different.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If it was up to me, I would change my mind every week if I could. I mean, because I don't feel the same way all the time. But what I had to do was train my people so damn good that they don't need me there 24/7. That's what you have to do. And then I plan strategically for the whole year. I'm taking a week in something in February, 2 weeks in May, this week at this time. I have to plan a whole year in advance, not pay for the trip, but kind of roadmap it in my head and say, these are the times I want to take off. And then I have to be willing to do the no sleep thing.
That's how I roll.
Yeah.
Like and I told Dom too. He's like, let's go to Italy. I'm like, well, can we like hit up another place? Can we go to like Switzerland, or can we go?
Yeah.
He's like,
we do that too.
No. I'm like, come on, but like we're like right across.
We
the
do
border.
that too. We do that too. Well, we could hit here, and that's what I did on the Scandinavian trip. Well, Norway's right there, and if we go to Bergen, we could fit that in. Some people are born and want to plan.
Right.
They want to.
Yeah. Some
They
people
want to get married. They have their wedding dress picked out. They want to have kids, and they want to settle down, and they want to do this until they die. And some people don't want that life. It's too cookie cutter. It's too restrictive for some people. And then there's people who, like her, she wants to make her choice, and she might change her mind every year. And that's okay.
Are his goals going to align with your goals, and
Later in life.
Yeah.
I mean, well, first of all, I told him that I don't know if I want kids. One, because I'm autoimmune and like a lot of issues with my body already. So I don't even know if I'll be able to. And I was like, is that a deal breaker? That was like, we had one of those conversations like right in the beginning, because I was like, I'm not going to.
Good combo to have.
Yeah. I mean, like my thing is like, I'm very like just knowing and seeing other people's relationships, and, my parents were divorced, and like also everything that I've experienced in my life. I'm not trying to hold nothing back. You know what I mean? Like my life is my life, and I'm going to be very transparent and open with anyone that's in it. Like I'm not trying like if I have to fess up, or if I have to own up to something, or if I want to be honest or have that kind of conversation, I'm just going to do it. But like, I told him that I off the bat, like I was like, is this a deal breaker? And he said, no. He's like, I would be upset, but like, no, it's not a deal breaker. I'm like, all right, cool. So like, but like we'll cross that bridge when we get there too. Like I have big goals in mind, and I want to make sure that I have like a lot of money in the bank, and success and whatever. So hopefully, like when that time comes, I'm capable of doing all of those things too. But I mean, when I did all those things, when I moved to LA, I had, and I'm open about it, like I had like 40 grand in the bank. Right? Because I was working like a dog back in the day. And I never left the zip code. I was always just working at little local jobs and everything. And then I had so much money, like granted, like not so much, but like I had enough money to like have a cushion when I moved to LA. And I remember I was in my bed and I was signing my, man, if anyone in my family and people listen to this is going to be crazy. I remember seeing the contract and it was like $10 an hour at iHeart. And I'm like, oh God, I was making 18, right before. And I'm like, all right. And I signed the page and I'm like, I'm moving to LA. And like I hid it under my bed so that my dad wouldn't see how much I was getting paid. I was like, yeah, I'm making 15 an hour. I'll be fine. And then like, I have the apartment and everything. I lost like 20 to 30 grand. Granted, I treated it like a vacation for 3 years as well. So like I definitely spent a little bit more than I needed and stuff. And then I also came home with the debt on my credit card. So whatever money I had left, I wound up having to pay that off. I mean, I was making $10 an hour, but I was also paying over $1,000 a month in rent and bills and stuff like that, and whatever else I needed, food and all that jazz. So it wasn't being like, I wasn't splurging, but I was just, it was necessities. When I came back home, I had a little bit of money left, and then I got the job at ABC, luckily, so I wound up starting to save up again. But then the pandemic happened, and everything was uncertain, and I didn't know what was happening, and I started traveling, and someone was also asking me for money a lot. We're not going to say who. Demon Spawn. So I lost a lot more money, right? But then I figured out, I was like, okay, now I kind of want to like settle down a little bit. I want to relax. I don't need to travel as much. I did it. And then, Dom came along and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to save up. And now I'm like, but now I'm not like really happy where I am. So I got to figure out what I need to do. I have been prepping for this moment for over a year. So I have that foundation. I had that cushion, not a lot, but just enough to where I feel safe enough to like where I'm like making calculated risks. And even with the restaurant, I'm only working there 3 nights a week, but I was like, okay, if I leave this job, I have this job at the restaurant, which will at least supplement my rent. And as long as I can pay my rent, and Dom is here and he's like, look, if you need help, I'll help you, right? So like that's another thing. If you have a good support system, that's huge. Not everyone has that, and that sucks. But like luckily for me, I have that. So I had like, okay, I can pay rent. God forbid if I'm in trouble. My parents are right down the street. I have Dom. I have this cushion. You know what I mean? And I mean, like, of course, right when I left the job, Amber got sick, my lizard. And that was, she had parasites. It happens with bearded dragons. Always do your parasite cleanses, everyone.
Always do your parasite cleanse. We just talked about that.
But like, but then that was a bill and that was another bill. And I'm like, dang it, all these bills are adding up already. You know what I mean? I just got out of this job. So like, I don't know. It's to each their own, I guess. But like for me, I don't know what I want to do in the sense like, of a company I want to work at. I want to be my own person. Right. And I want to be on air. I want to interview people. I want to tell people stories. So whichever way I can possibly do that, that's the way I don't care where it is. It could be on radio, it could be on TV, it could be on podcasts.
I'm gonna ask you this then, okay? And I'm only doing this just,
it's cool.
just because when you look back at this, it's gonna generate ideas.
And when I look back on it and I'm watching it one day, I'm like, I told you so, Freddie.
Well, look, I'm not in competition against you.
No, I know you're not.
I want you to win.
You're playing devil's advocate.
I want you to be successful.
I get what you mean, the safe. It's not safe to just
I'm not saying that either.
But you know what?
What I'm saying is this. Get the dang reel done. It's like, okay, here's
I'm
why.
going. That's why I'm out in LA.
Here's why. You've done
I just got
20 to 30 conventions. I don't know. Maybe 10, maybe 50. I don't know. Say you've done 25 conventions in the last 5 years, okay? 7 years. And you have all this footage of everybody you've talked to, or maybe it's just audio clips. Where is all that content?
Because I was depressed. I was like a shell of myself for so long. And that was part of the reason I turned it.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
No,
you,
but
and
like-
you know, that's great. But see, you can still use that content and
But that's
that could
what
be
I'm doing now.
Dana Grows.
But that's
you
what I'm
know?
doing now because I literally left my job in like late November. And I'm telling you, the amount of things that I regret not doing because I had the opportunities or whatever, and like the footage or whatever, and I have it all. And I'm like, oh man, the amount of times I think about it on a day to day where I'm like, I wish I just like posted that or I put that out there or I did this stuff when the time was. I had my old boss, she was like, you need to talk about and blog and vlog about your trip to Italy and France when your ex broke up with you 4 days prior to the thing. Like, and I was hesitant. I'm like, who's going to listen to that? Who cares? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, no one cares about my life.
But in today's world, that could work.
But that's what I'm
That could
saying.
work.
Because you know what's funny? Because another guy in radio started vlogging about his breakup that was similar, where he took a trip and stuff. And then he vlogged about something else that was very similar to what happened to me. And I'm like, damn it, I did it first.
So if you have all this content, interviews, clips, sound bites, why don't you hire somebody like on Fiverr or something and get somebody to just make a kick-ass 4-minute demo of all of your content? If you can't do it or if you don't want to do it, have somebody else get all that content and
That's a good
just
idea.
have them make it look phenomenal.
Well, I didn't think about that, right? And like that was the thing. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I needed to separate myself from where I was, because I was so far gone in the sense of like just a shell of myself. I didn't want to do anything. I was unmotivated. I felt like I wasn't creative. My skin was breaking out. Like I was going through health stuff too, trying to figure it out and everything like that. So like there was just like a lot playing a part. And also, when you're in a really toxic relationship, that does not help the situation. And that was like a 2 to 3 year situation on and off. So like that was like the issue with why I was so hesitant. And you know, it's embarrassing because I feel like people look at me, maybe they see me as lazy or like, you know, she says she's going to do something and then she doesn't or whatever it is. But that wasn't the case. I always thought about it. You know what I mean?
I never saw you as lazy.
No,
Not
I
once.
appreciate that.
Not
Good.
once.
But
Not
that's what I
once did ever
felt.
see you.
That's like how I felt. Like,
I think you could be your own worst enemy.
yeah, of
You
course.
stop yourself from doing these things.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. But I mean, like now I'm motivated and you know, I don't have much to do. I have some interviews. I have some like, and by like talking to people interviews and like, you know, meetups and things like that out here in LA while I'm here. But I'm using this as my creative time. Last year when I came out here, I got so much done.
Yeah.
But then when I came back, I was told you can never do that stuff again. And I was like, holy moly. And that broke me. I was broken after that. And like, I was never the same for the whole rest of my year. And that's when I started planning my exit. So now that I'm here and I'm like, no one can tell me that ever again.
Yeah.
You know, and now people are like, hey, make a reel, do this, do that. I'm like, all right, cool. And now I'm like, I'm getting those creative juices flowing. I'm just using like little breaks, like ideas of things that actually happened. What happened? I dented my head against a freaking cabinet the other day, and now I have a gash, and people think it's covered up with makeup. Like now people think that, you know, like you were in a fist fight or something. I'm like, no, I just hit my head on a cabinet door.
And Dana, I've been in your corner since day one.
No, I know. I appreciate it. Literally day one.
And I really mean that. And I think you believe. I
You're
hope you
part of
believe me.
part of the reason I was hired at High Heart.
You know, and I've always had your back, and I've always wanted you to succeed. You know, and I just think that, man, it's like just get that reel done. It's
Well,
just like,
look, it's a new
He's
thing.
gonna text you every week.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Did you get that reel? Did you get that reel?
No,
How about
it's
that reel?
good. But okay, so
It's good.
circling back to like the beginning, right? My friends in my area are nothing like of what I'm doing, and there's nothing against them. But it's hard to talk to people when they don't understand what you do. I'm still at the Thanksgiving table with family, and they're like, "You're doing what?" Every time I'm saying, "Yeah, I got an interview today for like my parents," they're like, "Wait, you're gonna move back to LA?" I'm like, "No, an interview like to talk to someone about their life." You know what I mean? I have to always like, no one still gets it.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to talk to my friends and I want to do manifestation, like little silly
What
things.
about a YouTube channel? Why don't you have a YouTube channel?
That's what I want to do. I have so much footage. I mean, granted, except I think I told you this, but like the interviews that I did the other day at She Rocks, it was all audio. So I have to think of how to repurpose that on YouTube without audio, with just audio,
Right.
things like that. But that's fine.
The hardest thing about doing a channel podcast show is just getting started.
Yeah,
That
but
is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because once you get the ball rolling, you can shift, you can pivot, you can change, you can update, you can improve. But the hardest thing is to get the ball rolling in the first place.
Well,
and I feel like that's where you are your own worst enemy.
I'm like always at that brick wall, like trying to bust it down. But now I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get this going. And for me, I don't get embarrassed if it has 2 views or 2 million views. I really don't care.
That's the hard thing too. Yeah, you have to not care.
It's like, oh,
You have to not care.
It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
And Michelle knows. I
get it.
I've gone through this myself. It's like, God, why is nobody doing this? And you know what? At some
you
point
get a boost.
in the
You're
last,
like, wow.
I just stopped caring. I'm like, you know what? F
Let it happen.
And you know what? Things started to skyrocket lately.
Semen Spawn has over 1 million followers. Imagine that. As like if you're going by numbers and stuff, and that's why I really started to not care, because I started getting people DMing me being like, I'm more of a fan of you than him because you're genuine, you're authentic. Like I feel like I connect with you more than that. Like and granted, like look, people like that, they have a fandom, they have people that like them, they're an entertainer, they like have a personality and it's amusing and stuff like that. So I'm not going to discredit that, but again, quality over quantity. And so I think, the people that like my 7,000 followers versus his 1 million, for instance, is mine are authentic. People know me. People like I talk to every single
fill
person.
a roller rink
I
for
can
crying
fill
out
a
loud.
roller
You know what I'm
rink.
saying?
You know what I mean?
And he
on.
couldn't with the 1 million followers.
That's
That's
what
true.
I'm saying.
That's true, though.
And so like that, like numbers don't matter in
Yeah,
the long run
yeah.
because one time I posted something and I was so like, I should probably delete it because it literally got like 100 or 200 views or something like that. And I was like, But then I had one single person reach out to me and say, I needed that today. And I think if I didn't see that, my day would have went a totally different way.
You think about, you care so much about what people think,
Oh, of course.
especially those specific people, that it alters your performance.
And then that goes back to who cares of what you're doing in your own life. Like when people see what I'm doing, like, I had people just reach out to me when I left the job and it was like, where are you going? I'm like, who cares? Like, why are you never talked to me like 2 days in my life? Like,
Right.
why all of a sudden are you intrigued with where I'm going?
But I care, and that's why I ask questions.
Yeah, but like everything I've always done in my life was genuine and authentic, and like even the presses, like the
And
places.
isn't that why you and I became friends so quickly? I think.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, we wanted milkshakes all the time too. There's that. But like everything, the people that I knew, and I always tell this like to any job or whatever. I was like, look, I had a life before this job. These people are people that I knew prior. Like, so like don't think I'm ever like jeopardizing or doing anything to like cause conflict with any of my careers or jobs or anything. These are people that I've met throughout my life. And going back, that's another thing. Going back to the conferences, why I love it so much is because for me, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. And that's why I love going to conferences, because you get a whole bunch of different people, right? I love that I have my friends there that are like my age on air and this and that. Like we can talk about, BS and like about radio and da-da-da. But then you best bet that like I'm sitting at a table with people that are over the age of 50 and more, and we're having a glass of wine. And I'm telling them, you remember, let me tell you something. One time I interviewed Mickey Dolenz. And then they're like, how old are you? And I'm like, yeah, but
you said being in a room with people who are smarter than you. It's such a big, that's so important.
Yes,
that is
exactly.
so important. But, I guess I don't have a rebuttal for that. But here's the thing. I've gone to a couple of these radio conventions, okay? And a lot of these radio conventions, and maybe you can attest to this because you've been to quite a lot. A lot of these conventions, they have a panel of of experts.
Yeah.
People who are supposed to be smarter than you, right? Well, in recent years, I've seen people who just got into radio a year ago and they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
They have no clue. And they're still like 12 years old in their head. And I'm looking at that, and I went to one of these conventions, and I was always told that they're a waste of time, and they're not if you utilize it the right way, like you do, or if you network like Dana does.
That's what the biggest part is, networking,
Networking, right.
I would
Absolutely,
But
100%.
I saw that it could be a big wild party, and the people who go, it's usually the same, 18 people you see every time. Half of them are hungover. And then the people who are on the panel, we brought up a good point that sometimes it's people who put up money into the whoever's throwing the convention in the first place.
Yeah.
It's who's contributing financially to our convention. And if you look at this panel, okay, so tell us, Christina, how have you become so successful in the mornings? Yeah. Well, and I'm like, and I'm listening to her, right?
Yeah.
I've been in radio long enough to know she.
Mind you, there was no Christina.
No, I'm just making that up.
That's a character name.
That she doesn't know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I could not. I no longer saw. There's some of these that are great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I've been to one, and that was enough. And as for me,
You no longer saw the benefit of going.
No. It's to me, it was a bit silly.
Yeah, I get that because it depends, and I mean to speak on it positively is that people of all ages, you could probably learn something from them in some regard. Whether if it's like the older crowd, right, watching the panel where the 12-year-old is, and they're like, oh well, I did this on TikTok or blah blah blah, and they're like, what's TikTok? You know what I mean? Then it's like they're learning something from the younger crowd, and I think that's the biggest issue with panels right now is that we're trying to figure out how we can blend the ages together so that people can learn more on all of these. But I go more so for the after hours part, not for the parties where I get an espresso martini poured on me because I don't drink and it's just annoying because it's like people treat it as a party too, which is good. Like you're with friends, you want to party, whatever, it's fine. But also like you could be your future employer here. You want to be a little careful.
Yes.
But like I don't worry about that for me. But when the after hours for me is like, can we, talk over a cup of coffee or something like that? Can I just get your insight on what you think I should be doing or what you were saying to me earlier? It's like, hey, Dana, make that freaking real or something. Like if I'm talking to people, I'm like, I'm down for constructive criticism. I'm never going to be like, oh, he hurt my feelings or whatever, because I'm asking you for it and I want to learn, and that's how I'm going to learn. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So panel or just meeting aside, that's the reason why I go. And it's also just, it fuels me because one, I'm in a hotel. I have no distractions, no Jimmy Jam crying up the storm because he wants to go into the bedroom and he wants to play fetch or something. And like, I don't have to worry about all that. I have my little hotel desk and I set up my computer and I start typing away and sending emails and doing like, I feel like fulfilled right there, and I can talk to people about radio there.
And you have utilized your connections pretty well because you're able to contact them out. You follow up. A lot of people are scared to follow up. These things cost like $500-$600 to $1,000 each ticket to get in. So that's why for me it was like, the one thing that I always preach to if it's ever career day is network.
Yeah.
Out of all the jobs I've ever gotten, it's always because of somebody that I knew. It was never because I went to go apply. Yep. Never. I in my whole life, I have never got a job where I went to go apply and they gave me the job.
Yeah, same.
Zero.
I've gone it through all conferences. Every conference I've connected with someone, and then I reached out to them another day, and then I applied to the job, and then boom, done. So I mean,
that's nice.
Well, I don't know. To wrap up this part of the show, I think when we talk about our careers, which we love and are passionate about, I've seen you be your own worst enemy. I've seen you stop projects because of it's a lot of your mind. Oh,
absolutely. Yep. I've done that so many times.
You got to get over it at some point, and I think you are, and I think you're on the right path now, especially being out of a toxic relationship, in a good relationship with a big support system. But you got to do something. I mean, do the YouTube channel, do the reel, get your content out there. We want to see more.
Well,
yeah. We do.
More to come.
Before we wrap up, though,
Oh boy, here we go.
tell us about this diner.
Oh my goodness.
We gotta hear about the
I totally
diner.
forgot about that. Oh
Talk
my
about
goodness.
a passion project.
Yeah,
How did you find this little diner? And why are you so passionate about it? And where are you with it now?
And that's another thing. Everyone's like, you got to do a documentary on the diner. And
would
I'm
be
like,
cool.
yeah, well, I can, but like, I need more footage or more like progress with it. And I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
But the few clips that I have seen,
Yeah.
it looks legit, like a legit
is.
documentary.
Yeah.
Michelle,
It's so cute.
Yeah.
It sounds like a documentary.
Yeah. It's freaking awesome.
There's B-roll while you're talking.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
B-roll.
It's
while I'm
legit.
You could
talking.
use that
Yeah,
as
I
part
know.
of your reel. Just
I mean,
saying.
that's what I basically use that as my reel. That one spot, because if anything, that's the most interesting thing. And like, who else is going and restoring a diner?
Yeah.
It's really tough right now, and it's really friggin' annoying, honestly, because what happened? This diner's been in my town, my hometown, Little Falls, New Jersey, for the longest time, and it's been vacant for the last 30 years after a fire in '94. So basically, my whole life, it's
long
been
time.
closed. Yeah. And I walked past it every single day, pretty much with my friends or my dad, my mom, whatever. And I'm like, oh, how fun would it be? I remember as a kid, I'd be like, Dad, can we do a throwback day where, like, you know, all the coffee's 5 cents or whatever back from however long ago? He's like, oh, that's impossible, blah, blah. I'm like, well, now your daughter's actually trying to restore it. So never say never. And that was one thing I said. Also, speaking about things that I've always wanted to do and accomplish, and I did it. I'm like, if I can get this far with this diner and restoring it and hopefully restoring it completely, anything's possible.
Yeah.
You know, but if I can restore a diner where I have $0 to put into it kind of thing and get this momentum behind it, anything you can do anything you put your mind to as long as you really, really push for it.
Yeah.
You got to be adamant.
How did this even begin? I mean, so
Okay, yeah. So the pizzeria or the pizza restaurant that I work at still used to be right next door.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I knew the owners of that land and that land of the diner. They own like that whole plot of land, like that whole line of it right there on the side of the road. So I would always joke, oh, what are we going to do? Restore that diner? And like, you know, this is like 10 years ago or something. So like, you know, I'm
the
a
diner
kid.
just stood there by itself.
And they didn't have any plans for it
No,
anymore?
nothing.
Okay.
Nope. And it's so annoying. So,
Yeah. Eyesore, too.
well, that's what a lot of people say. And I'm like, well, granted, it'd probably look the same, just like a little less broken down, honestly. But it adds character to the town.
Yeah.
And it came to the point where I talked to the owner, and he's like, well, if you can try to see if you can somehow restore it, then maybe we'll talk. Okay. The next day, I find a historical diner restoration guy, and he gave me the one clip because I recorded all these calls and everything like that, which I'll have people sign off on if I ever put it out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's cool.
But like he said, the one little snippet in you know, in radio terms, we would like, it's the money clip. And he's basically like, that diner can be fixed. You should like restore it. And I was like, perfect. That's all I needed. Thank you. And then so I started reaching out to restoration people, to diner people, to anything, a historical society. And then the historical society president called me one day and he's like, I think I have someone that might want to invest. And I'm like, no way. And I'm like, so I'm like in a Panera and I'm like talking and I'm like, hey, and they're like, yeah, I would definitely, let's like have a meeting and stuff. We had this whole blueprint of having the diner and then where you can build back and then up. So it's like an L shape. And like just different concepts so that we can keep the diner there, but also the owners of that land can also build their apartments that they so desperately need. Half of our town is just filled with apartments now. It's ridiculous, but whatever. So
Ours.
Yeah, that's like
it's
the ones
just
over
like,
here.
okay, like come on, like whatever. Integrity of the town. Let's keep it there. Whatever. So I had a lot of support. I started an Instagram. Ty Pennington started following it. You know, Barbara Corcoran, she mentioned it on one of her like little
cool.
Zooms. Yeah. Like people have noticed this place. And like a lot of people reached out to me telling me stories about it. One lady reached out to me and she's like, look, I have brain cancer, but when I get better, I want to go and dine there. And I'm like, how are you supposed to like, how are you supposed to not have that happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now my
Like,
goal is you're going to get there.
yeah, and like the people that are older who used to dine there that are, you know, in their 70s and 80s now,
Yeah,
Like,
they should be the first guest.
I want
that
them
would be so
to
cool.
be able to go back there again, you know? And every day I'd walk into that diner and I'd be like, look, I don't know if there's anyone listening or anything, because clearly God helped me with the last thing. So I'm like, I don't know if anyone's listening, but just know that I'm working on it and I'm trying to keep this thing going. So ultimately, then the owners not too long ago said they backed out. They don't want it there.
Oh.
But they'll give me the diner if I can move it. Those diners are made to move. They have 4 beams on the bottom, 4 like steel beam kind of things where they just put a truck on it. They lift it up and down.
You've learned about this.
I would have never known that.
Yeah.
Unreal the amount that I've learned.
That's crazy.
With this stuff.
Okay, so it's movable.
So you can move it. So I've been talking to people and I still talk to people, and just like the people that come my way, documentary people, like diner people, this, that. My friend's friend started a documentary on this other diner in Teterboro, I think, Bendick's Diner. This guy is blind. He has a diner that's exactly the replica, the same kind of diner, a master diner like mine. And he has been working there pretty much all his life. He's blind. So he serves and he does things there, but he's blind. He has kids, so they help out. So my friend did a documentary on that in 2019, came out recently, and I was in it. I didn't know anything about diners at the time, though, and what I was going to do. But now I talked to this guy, John, and now the town over there just closed his diner because of fire codes. And then I started reaching out to like Governor Murphy and like different like city people and this and that, because I'm like, you guys are not trying. You want to keep the integrity of diners or the history of New Jersey, and diners is that. But diners were not built to stand up to today's codes. They're not strong like a normal building. So that's why the diner shut down. So like I'm getting contacted throughout all these different realms about diners and people and this, and it's incredible. And I've been documenting a lot of it. And I'm trying to, honestly, I'm probably like everyone else in the world, start a podcast about it or something. And while I'm out here, I want to talk to like Tesla Diner or Mel's Diner and stuff. But like
diners are cool, so cool.
Yeah, so they're so unique. So I've been working on trying to see if I can find a place to move it. So I pitched to the town, me and the investor, about a few places in town that
So the
have.
investor's still in?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
he's
good.
as crazy as I am, and it's unreal because
Wow.
he's like, he's definitely, he's like not my age. He's a little older than me, you know.
Is he
wife,
from there
kid.
too?
Yeah. So, but like the fact that like a grown man that's like, you know, successful sees how crazy I am with my intentions and everything, and he's like,
That's all
I'm
it
down.
takes. Yeah.
this is my thing. I'm like, how is this not supposed to happen when I'm working at the restaurant that I work at in Montclair, and this woman comes in, and I'm like, she looks so familiar. I'm thinking she's just a customer that comes in, and I just forget her name because, you know, I've known so many people over the last 13 years at that restaurant that new and old people come in, and I'm like, oh my God, hey, nice to see you again. It's been 5 years. So she's like, oh, table for two. And I'm like, all right, sit her down. And she's ordering everything. And I'm like, you know, I'm talking to her for a little bit. She asked me about what size the pizzas are. I'm like, why is she asking how big the pizzas are? She's been here before. Whatever. So then towards the end, I'm like, do you want anything for dessert? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, this is what we have. And I had my cheesecake there too. Save the story. Hold on.
Dana's cheesecake.
Yeah. Blueberry almond cheesecake. So she's like, yeah, maybe. And so I'm like, you look so familiar. Are you from town? And you been here before? And she's like, no, I haven't been here before. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, are you from town? Like, you from like, you know, the area? Da, da, da. And she's like, no. She's like, well, I grew up over here. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, so she like grew up in the area. I'm like, are you related to this school or this and that? So I'm thinking things that maybe we cross paths. So I was like, what's your name? She's like, Amanda. I'm like, Amanda. She's like, Freitag. She's a Food Network freaking chef and star.
Oh, cool.
Not only that, she worked with Ty Pennington on Restoring Diners, a show, a diner restoration project or whatever show on the Food Network years ago. So she was right. And everyone for the last year and a half has been saying, you need to talk to this woman. Well, I'm like, how am I going to get in contact with a Food Network star?
She walks in.
She walks right in. I'm like, what? So I'm like talking to her, And I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, literally like that. She's like,
You're like, I can kiss you right now.
And she's like, oh no. I'm like, no. It's like, I mean, I get it because you're a Food Network star kind of thing and everything. And like, I know I have the cheesecake here and I definitely want you to try it. But I was like, but it's not that. And she's like, what? And I told her the whole spiel with the diner. And she's like, oh my goodness. I'm like, what are the odds that you're here right now?
Girl, let's go walk.
She's like,
and I can show you.
Yeah. She's like, don't give up on it. Like, you know, if there's anyone that I might be able to, I know that I can probably connect you with, I will. Yeah. She started following me in the diner Instagram. So another one. But I'm like, tell me it's not supposed to happen when all these people are falling like right in front of me. Then I give her my cheesecake. And I'm like, please be honest. I was like, let's pretend we're on an episode of Chopped right now. Okay. Tell me what you think. And she's like, well, you just made the, you just got to the dessert round. So, and I'm like, so she tries it and she's like, she loved it. Yeah. She was just like, wow, this is so creamy and smooth and da-da-da-da-da.
What's her name?
Amanda Freitag. If you see her face, you would know.
It is her.
I would have recognized her.
She's super famous.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like one of the main characters on the show.
That's what I'm saying.
I would have recognized her for sure, yeah.
No,
and I grew up watching Chopped. And I'm like, what are the freaking odds, right? So one, she loved my cheesecake. Loved
she could
it.
be fierce as a critic.
She is.
Yeah.
And she tried my cheesecake.
And she liked it.
And it's funny because my coworkers at the restaurant, they're like, what is Dana doing talking to this lady this whole time? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, she's up to something. And I walk back there. I'm like, guys, that's Amanda Freitag. And they're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, you best bet. I was like,
serve her your best pizza.
Yeah.
Is that my cheesecake?
And she liked your cheesecake.
Yeah. She's like, is this a no bake? And I was like, no, it's a bake, girl. And she's like, oh my God, like, so like, what? How many eggs? I was like, only 3. You know what I mean? Like kind of thing. And I'm not going to say any much more because it's a secret recipe.
It's a family secret.
Yeah, it's a Dana secret, I guess. But like, yeah. So like, we were talking about that, and she's like, wow, like this is great and everything, and like, it was just incredible. So like, those things are happening when I'm doing the diner. So right now, I'm basically at the 11:30 hour of this time clock, and I have no idea. Like I pass the diner almost every day with fear of just seeing it not standing run more now. And I met another guy recently who breaks down diners to move them. So I'm like,
meet these people at?
That's what I'm saying. Where are the odds? You know what I mean? And so I'm like, look, what's meant to be will be. And I can only do so much. But if there's one thing that I'm going to try to do regardless now is tell the stories of other diners that are around still. And I'm like, yo, Dad, you want to move a diner into our yard? Like, what do I do? So I'm like,
I'm enough room on the property.
I'm at wit's end. But so that's where I'm at right now.
Can't you chop it up in pieces and kind of, you know?
You can. You can store like all the stainless steel.
Bob's Big Boy Diner.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I love Bob's Big Boy too.
There's still a few standing.
Yeah. What
it's
I'm
like
doing.
the book The Little Prince when he builds a little airplane in his backyard and he's there, you know, because he has nowhere else to put it.
Oh
you know?
my goodness, yeah.
But that's kind of like
me.
She's gonna put the diner in her backyard.
Yeah, I know. Watch in about a month or so, Dana comes back with this full blown show on some kind of big giant network.
I'm like, oh my God,
and she and my none of my advice stuck.
I told you so, Freddie.
She's gonna be at the end of it. She's gonna do the whole diner show, and she's gonna be like, and I still didn't do that reel.
Literally,
you know what, Freddie? Fuck your reel. That's what she's gonna
Frick
say.
you, Freddie. What reel? I don't need that.
Well,
this is my reel right here.
Her second time on the podcast, all the way from Montclair, New Jersey,
to Montclair, California.
I know,
from West Coast to East Coast, West Coast, and back to the East Coast. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Give it up for Dana.
Our favorite Jersey girl.
Give it up for you guys. Thank you for having me.